In this video, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why van life is not for me and why it may not be for you either, so stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Winter. If you're here for the first time, glad to see you. If you're coming back, I'm really glad you have come back. Today, I am going to give you 10 reasons why van life is not for me and why it may not be for you either. Why am I doing this video? Because I don't think a lot of people really grasp the reality of being out in a van and living in it, especially if you've watched a lot of YouTube videos about van life. Most of them are romanticizing it. They're in front of they got their doors open and they're in front of an ocean, or they're looking over a Grand Canyon, and they're giving you the romanticized side of van life. When I made the decision to do a minivan build, it wasn't because I wanted to do van life. It was because the Lord was leading me to do this in case I needed a place to go if the world comes crashing down around us. So I want to make that really clear. It wasn't a desire of mine to live in a van ever. I did do 4 van builds. The first one was side to side with the bed and everything else in the back of the van. That didn't work. Then I did one, the bed was long ways, and I took that build on vacation. I went for 2 weeks and I went to the California coast. And it was during that 2-week period of time that I discovered a lot of things that I'm going to talk about today in these 10 reasons why I cannot do van life, and you may not be able to either. And then the third build was where I put almost a full-size mattress in the back. And then the fourth build is the boxes that I put together, and that is the build that I have stuck with. It's the one that works the best for me. So let's get started on the reasons. I started a Facebook group called Senior Women Van Lovers, and it grew to 4,000 women very rapidly. I had to walk away from Facebook because of things I found out about Facebook. Well, apparently that group has grown to well over 10,000 women. I think they call it the Gallivanters or something. They changed the name of it. What I noticed when I would check comments that were coming in, I would see a lot of comments, oh, I can't wait to get out there. I can't do it yet, but I'm going to be doing it. And I need to do this first, and I need to do that first, but I'm going to be doing it. It was almost like they were having to justify why they weren't in a van yet. And I found that very interesting and also very telling about how these women feel like they need to do this for some reason. So I wanted to touch on that. So let's start with my reasons why. I gave you the first one. It has been romanticized by YouTube. Number 2, if you're in a minivan, your living space is 4 by 8. That's it. That's all you get. You don't get anything more than that. If you want to slap a tent on the back, then you expand that space. So, size matters when you're going to be living in something. Also in a minivan, you can't stand up, so you're going to be crawling around on your knees. And if you are an older person, which most of these women are elderly, you may not have the greatest knees in the world. And if you have to be on your knees all the time to do everything, it can get old real fast. I can't tell you how many times I bumped my head on my ceiling or on my console above me when I was out on the 2 weeks that I did going over to the coast. I live in Colorado, so I went to the coast. It's a very limited space, which means where are you really living? You're living outside of your van. We'll touch on that in a minute. 3, money. Money. We think we're moving into our van and we're going to save all this money because we're not paying rent, or we're not paying a mortgage, or we're not paying, all the high dollar amounts to, have your electricity and, your water and all these conveniences. Gasoline is ridiculous. It's at $3.59 a gallon, I believe, is the average. Well, if you are doing traveling in your van, if that's your goal, that money's going to add up real quick to a mortgage payment. If you're traveling around at $3.59 a gallon, it costs me approximately $75 if I'm on empty to fill my van. That's a lot of money. And if you're driving around and traveling, you're going to burn up through that money really quickly. So that's number 3. Number 4 is weather. Let's say you go to courtside. Let's just use that as an example. And you're there in the wintertime, because if you're there in the summertime, you're going to melt in the heat. So you go to Quartzsite in the wintertime, and you have to live outside your van most of the time. Well, you get dust storms there, you get a lot of wind there, you get rain there that can be 100-year flood every 5 years or every 2 years or whatever. So that weather is a very important factor. You're constantly dealing with dirt in your van. If you have an animal, which I do, your dog is in and out, in and out, in and out, or your cat or whatever. Those paws are dirty, and they're bringing that dirt into your living space, which is, again, really tiny. So how do you keep that dirt at bay? What if you're stuck for a couple of days inside your van because it's pouring down rain outside, and you can't go outside and do the things that you normally would? What does that rain turn that dirt into? Mud. So now you're surrounded by mud until it dries out. That is not something that I find romantic, is being stuck in a van with it pouring down rain. I have to do everything now in my van. I have to cook in my van. I have to go to the bathroom inside my van. I have to wash myself inside my van. I have to do all these things inside my van. If I'm out in Quartzsite, right? Or I can get in my van and go drive into Quartzsite and find a place to take a shower. Things like that. Laundry is a big issue. What are you going to do with all your dirty clothes? You have to hang on to them and then take yourself to a laundromat and use a filthy, disgusting, I'm sorry, laundromat to do your clothing in. That is not appealing to me. Is it to you? I mean, is that something that, you really think about? What about your bedding that has to be washed and cleaned, and put back on your bed every week? That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of work in van life that I don't think people really realize. 5, what if you have a breakdown? What if you have a breakdown? Number 1, money. Let's go back to that for a minute. You have got to have at least a 6-month funds in your savings account before you even ever walk out your door, sell your house, give up the lease on your apartment. You have got to have that kind of money saved up, because for this very reason. So I'll give you my van as an example. I bought a 2014 used vehicle. I was not happy about that, but that's all I could afford. I had the vehicle for about, I'll say, a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and it broke down, and it wasn't drivable. And I did not have the money put together to get this van fixed. I was carless for 3 months. Well, if I were living in that van, where am I going to go for 3 months? Am I going to stay in a hotel, which costs an arm and a leg? Where am I going to go for 3 months while my van is broken? I can't take it to the store to buy groceries. I can't do anything. If I'm out in Quartzsite, I'm in trouble. If I'm in an urban area, maybe a little bit better, I could leave my van and take an Uber or take a Lyft to go get groceries. But what is that doing? That's leaving my van vulnerable to somebody breaking in and robbing me blind of everything I own. So I was 3 months without a car that I had to work. I had to save that money to get it together. It was $2,600 to fix that car. Then I had another problem. My window in my driver's side, I went to open it and it dropped down into the door and it wouldn't close. Once again, I'm now vulnerable. I've got a window that won't go up and down. What am I going to do? I have to go in and get it fixed. It was $460 some to get that window fixed. Again, you could be carless for a day or 2 or 3 or 4, however long it's going to take you to gather that money together. And where are you staying while it's in the shop to get fixed? My understanding is, in most of the country, not here, thank God, but in most of the country, you have to wait a while to get your car in to have it maintained, to have it fixed. What are you going to do in the meantime? You thought about this, it isn't everything that people are trying to make it cracked up to be. Parking. Where are you going to park every night? And how safe are you? That's going to be one of my reasons, I believe. If you're in Quartzsite, you got no problem parking. But what if you're urban? What if you're city dwelling? What if you're in the middle of the summer and you're city dwelling and it's 100 degrees outside? How are you going to keep that van cool? Are you going to be able to go to a higher elevation? If you do go to a higher elevation, then you have to be moving every 2 weeks. If you're in the national forest or you're on BLM land, you have to move constantly. You're never really stable anywhere. You're constantly in movement. You're constantly trying to find a place to park. What if you get that knock on the door? What are you going to do? You have to turn the key and you have to move your home. It may sound lots of fun and all of that, but I thought about all of these things and I'm like, this is definitely not for me. And especially after I took my trip to California. In California, I thought, oh, I'll be able to just park up against the ocean and I'll be able to spend days there. No, that was not the case. That was not the case. I had a very hard time finding places to park, and I ended up paying to stay in campgrounds. That wasn't the goal when I went out there, to stay in campgrounds that I was going to have to pay for. No, I thought I was going to be able to boondock it. No, it wasn't the case. I spent one night in the forest on my way from California to Nevada because I was heading back home, and I was freaked out the whole night that I was in that forest because, number one, I didn't know if it was legal. Number two, I was all alone and only had my dog for protection. I was far enough off the road that probably couldn't see me, but I was close enough to the road. If I had to escape, I could. But I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable. I don't want to live my life like that every night. I really don't. And for elderly women, I think that's an issue. If you have a medical emergency, what are you going to do then? Where are you going to park your van while you're in the hospital? Maybe you have a heart attack and you're going to be in the hospital for weeks. What are you going to do with your home? Where are you going to park it? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to be able to get to doctor's appointments that you need to get to? What are you going to do about pharmacy and getting your medications if you need them? I'm fortunate enough that I don't have any of that, praise the Lord. I have not had any medical issues whatsoever. I don't have to take any prescription medications. But what if you do? How are you going to handle that on the road? Let's talk water and electricity. Water's a big thing. How are you going to bathe and shower and do dishes and do all the things that you need to do with water? Water's heavy. I've got a 6-gallon water jug right next to my kitchen in my van, and I can put 6 more on the other side. That's 12 gallons of water. That could last me a little while, but that's about maximum that I can take in my van. That's heavy, so that adds to your gas price because it's heavy. You're lugging that water around. How are you going to heat your water? Well, you have to get your stove out. You have to put a teapot on there. You have to heat your water that way if you want to take a warm bath, right? What if you want to wash your hair? I've got really long hair. What if I want to wash my hair? I don't like to wash my hair in cold water. I also want to talk about storage. You have very limited storage in a minivan, which means you've got very few clothing you can take. It's just really cramped when you have to store things and live your life inside a van. And that is another situation I want you to think about, is your dishes, your pots, your pans, all these things that you need to cook with. Food, where are you going to store your food? How are you going to store your food? If you are, a vegan person like me, vegetables don't last long, so you're constantly going to the store to buy more. If you have a refrigerator, it eats a lot of electricity. So there's just a lot to consider when you are planning on moving into a van and out of your comfortable home or apartment that you have been living in. So I wanted to add that as well. In my opinion, there's nothing romantic about living in a van. There just isn't. Not one thing. Maybe for a little while it might be fun, but no. I need roots, and I want to talk about that next. If you are really struggling with a mortgage payment and you can sell your house and make some money, do an alternative. Buy a mobile home. Move into a mobile home park where the rent is a lot cheaper. And if you own the mobile home, then all you have to worry about is your lot rent. And there are plenty of places that you can live in this country in a mobile home where you're not paying an astronomical amount of rent to live in it. Another option is the way I live. I bought an RV for $4,000. It's an older RV, but it works for me. Are there things in here that aren't perfect? Absolutely. But guess what? I've got hot water. I have a shower. I can cook on a stove. I've got a roof over my head. If it pours down rain, I don't have to worry about being stuck inside a 4x8 piece of space to get through the day, especially with my pet. I have a comfortable bed to sleep in every night. I live in a beautiful place. My rent is very cheap. It just went up. I'm paying $425 a month for rent. So an RV is a fantastic alternative. And RV parks all over the place, they are taking permanent residents. This park that I live in, only 20% of it is temporary people. The rest of us all live here all the time. Why? Because that's where we can afford to live. There's Section 8. I know that's not a romantic thing either, but if you're really, really tight on your money, Section 8 can be an option for you. So once again, let's go over it. Van life has been romanticized. The size that you're living in, the money that it costs actually to do it, your weather factor, breakdown engines and other issues that you could have. Where are you going to park? What happens if you have a medical emergency? What about the dirt factor? 9 is safety. Do you feel safe out there? And 10 is your water usage and your electricity. How are you going to power everything? How are you going to get those batteries charged? So I hope that this was beneficial to you. If it was, I would appreciate a thumbs up on this. I really would. And I further want to talk about my channel a little bit before I let you go. This is not a van channel, even though the algorithm only spits it out to people who want to do van life. I literally went and got a different channel to do my vlogs on because no one was watching on this channel. When I do a van video like this, it gets a lot of attention. But if I do cooking, or if I do my RV life, or if I do traveling or vacationing or even camping in my minivan, it doesn't get any attention. But I'm going to hang in there. I'm going to shut down my RV Life channel, and I'm coming back over to this channel to do that because this channel is monetized. And I would like to make some money off of my monetized channel, so I'm bringing my RV life back to this channel. If you're here strictly for van life, you're not going to see any of that here anymore. And I appreciate you being here for those videos, but I would like you to stick around for my life, for what I'm doing. That, at a 70-year-old woman living on Social Security, I'm sure there are a lot of women out there that are in my same stage of life and trying to figure out, how can I live comfortably without having to be in a van? Well, I've got the solution to that, and it's an RV. It really truly is. I love this life. I am amazed at how content and happy and joyful I am in this life. But a van life, no. To use it to travel in, yes. I use it for a hotel room. Or if I'm going camping, I use it to go camping, and I just bought a tent and I just bought a kayak, which will expand my living space and give me things to do while I'm camping. But as far as van life goes, no. Stick a fork in it. I stuck a fork in it a while back and decided to do a couple of more van things, like the most versatile van you'll ever see, van build you'll ever see. That got over 42,000 views, and it made me some money. I made a whopping $230 off of that video. Yay! I'm bringing my RV life back over here, and I would appreciate you hanging out and sticking around for that. But if you don't, I understand, and we'll just move on from there. But anyway, I hope that you did get some benefit out of this video. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you on this channel, but it's not going to be van related. Have a great day, everybody.